Yeah, your mouth to Steve's ears.
Yeah, where did I say that? I don't recall that.
Okay, so let's see here. Let me get back to the
You're live on LinkedIn.
perfect. Live on LinkedIn. We're just turned on our streaming. We're getting ready.
We are live on Twitter.
Yeah, and we are live on Facebook.
Okay, and Keith, you said live on
Twitter. X.
Twitter X. X Twitter. X Twitter.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I like that. And hopefully YouTube. All right. So let me get my close-up shot going here.
Mr. DeMille.
Gillmor.
No, Mr. DeMille. You're ready for your close-up. Yeah.
All right. Mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. Joining us from the state of the United Kingdom is Frank Radis.
Hello there. I'm patiently waiting for the numbers to come in for the BAFTAs, but some of them have already come in, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later on.
What's the BAFTAs?
It's the Oscars here in the UK.
all right.
The British Film Academy.
So you're missing that right now, Frank?
Well, it actually happened about 3 hours ago, but it's now on television. So they're now starting to report.
They don't do it live?
Oh, no. Over here, it's on BritBox. You've got to subscribe. You have to subscribe to BritBox.
I've got it.
But
over here, we don't need BritBox because we are Brits.
You are BritBox.
Joining us from Palo Alto, California is Keith Tier.
Such a wonderful pleasure to spend my Sunday with all of you people.
And we wonder if he's being honest or not.
I don't wonder at all. I know.
Just because I'm British doesn't mean everything is irony. Some things are just true.
Oh, then I'll take it as a compliment.
Steve's passing it, so he's trying to get now. Does he really mean it?
I love this narration. I haven't got a thought in my head. It's all fiction.
It's always good when other people think you do, even if you don't.
Exactly.
Well, I hope that now has changed. Okay, to my extreme right is our producer, director, and wonderful person, Tina Chase Gillmor.
And to you, also wife. Huh.
Yeah.
Hi, Tina Chase Gillmor here. We're going to be recording the Gillmor Gang. Couldn't be more excited to see everybody here, and hope our viewers are tuning in. Please share the show if you are. Thank you.
And from the framework of Massachusetts, Dennis Pombriant.
Greetings and welcome to the 4th week of the Great Trump Disappearing Act.
Woohoo.
Oh, so that's how you're going to play it this week.
A preview of where it's going.
Let's go back to last week when.
Can you do that again, Steve?
No.
I missed that on camera.
I could barely do it this time.
It's been recorded, so we got it.
It looked
as John Stewart pointed out last Monday.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just because the other guy sucks doesn't mean that you don't have to pay attention to your own guy's failings, shortcomings.
I don't recall him saying that, but I think that's a good paraphrase.
Good paraphrase.
The YouTube monologue was just gold for
sure.
And one on.
Made Steve laugh a lot, and that's not easy.
No, the guy's
brilliant.
Well, no, he's back.
Oh, yes.
It's interesting how much better he is in that seat than he was on his Apple TV show.
Yeah.
The TV show was kind of average to bad, I thought.
And last but not least,
And from the state of confusion,
oh no.
hey, come on. I'm hoping that Fonnie Willis runs for president. The state of Georgia. I thought she was fantastic on that show.
That
So was
show.
her father.
You know, it was recorded
It's
and
called Fonnie and Me.
It's like Roger and Me, Fonnie and Me.
The name of the show is Don't Mess with Fonnie.
Yeah, the name of the show is They're Not Taking Her Off That Case. She's
Absolutely not.
she's
Well,
safe.
Hi, Brent Leary.
Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, hi, all the way from the state of confusion, apparently. Yeah.
With, you know,
That's it. I'm just doing the audio.
Brent, it's a sign of love. Only love and respect.
Well, it's a sign of repeating what he said about 6 shows ago.
It was more than 6 shows, but yeah.
Damn, am I that repetitive? Really?
Well,
Okay.
what do you think? Do you think
The Rams are going to win?
do you think that? Okay. I have no idea. You're the expert.
Yeah, we're in trouble, folks.
How come? No quarterback?
No, I'm waiting for the lively discussion on the, what is it, 360 million, or I don't know what it is at this point.
Okay. Well, I think you just started that discussion. What about it?
A lot of money.
You think anybody will ever see any of it?
If the Russians pay,
You got to put it in context. Sam Altman's trying to raise apparently 7 trillion. So
Damn.
Mm.
The state of
I-
New York will collect every penny.
yeah. I heard though his the GoFundMe page got $1 $500 one person gave
$500.
$500 period. That's
What about the sneakers? Are we gonna not address the sneakers, the Trump sneakers? I know every one of you guys already
Bought
put
'em?
in your pre-order for the Trump
Right.
sneakers.
they said it, they sold out, but who said that?
They did.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to sell out means to sell every available pair. Period.
Trump shoes.
There's
Brent,
another reason for saying the word sell out.
Gee,
Brent, do you think anybody will ever see any of that money?
Will I ever? Of course not. But I
Well,
think
anybody.
well, I think so. I mean, eventually, he's gonna exhaust all appeals and use everybody else's money to do that, so he don't care how long it takes.
Yeah, but he can't appeal unless he puts that money in some escrow account, right? That's what
that's right.
That's true. And doesn't
So-
it accrue interest too, as all this?
Yeah. So the 350 million actually, with 9% interest, over the first 12 months, it becomes 550 million. And that doesn't include the 83 that he owes, in the other case,
but he doesn't have to pay them the interest though. It's his interest, not theirs, until the fine is legally final.
But that's actually, though, interestingly enough, and a lot of people have been saying this, that's not a fine. That's a disgorgement. There's a difference between a disgorgement and a fine. That is, they are disgorging the money that he profited through the fraud.
That's right. And there's also the issue of there's already about $100 million of interest going back to the first infraction. So at the moment he owes about 453, and he's going to be accruing, or they're going to be accruing interest at a rate of about $1 million a week.
So
he
Dennis,
can't-
that means I'm wrong. Are you saying that even though there is not yet a final end to the legal process, the prosecution gets paid interest even though it isn't yet clear whether the findings will change.
Well, I don't know all of the answer to that. What I do know is that the infraction goes back many years, and the finding of fault goes back to the infraction, and the interest charge goes back to the first infraction. Now, the question that I think is a very good one is, does interest accrual get suspended during an appeals process?
I don't think it does.
Because I think you're very close to cruel and unusual punishment if you um, keep accruing interest during the rest of the legal process.
He's a billionaire. That's not cruel.
No, but you would think just on pure, imagine I was being sued for, I don't know, not paying my rent. Until I'm actually guilty, do I really owe anything to anyone?
Well,
You
but
don't, it's not collectible, but you owe from the time that you stopped paying your rent. That's what this judgment is.
So if I'm ultimately found guilty, I'll owe the rent plus interest.
exactly.
Right.
But if you're found innocent, then you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the option of filing for bankruptcy, from what I understand, would say if he filed for bankruptcy, he's saying he doesn't have the money to pay those disgorgements. If he doesn't file for bankruptcy, then he has to continue on as though he was, as he was, found guilty.
Does he have to prove that he doesn't have the money? If he's, I mean, can he just say, I don't have the money? And
Oh no. And you also have to ask, is this a Chapter 11 or Chapter 7 form of bankruptcy? One is personal, one is corporate. I believe the judgment is against the corporation. So in that case, what we've concentrated on so far is cash and cash equivalents available, not the value of the real estate that is held in the Trump Corporation. In order for him to declare bankruptcy, he would have to say that his total real estate holdings don't add up to the disgorgement amount.
So if he's got good advice, I've just been through this week myself with family estate matters. If he's got good advice, the assets of the Trump organization will have been separated from his personal assets legally via various legal methods, which is basically trusts. And then the definition of his personal estate is what he owns personally. And so it's entirely possible for the Trump organization to be fine and for Donald Trump to declare personal bankruptcy, leaving the Trump organization in good shape.
do you think he owns anything personally, or do you think he has? I would think that he has everything in corporations.
You would think that his estate planning would have made it so that his family office gifts are limited to his $28 million lifetime ability to gift, and everything else is in some trust that is not him personally, so it doesn't qualify for estate tax. That's what normally happens. But no, we don't have a proper accounting. We don't really know is the answer, but logically it would be nuts if it was in his personal ownership.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but we don't know any of that. What we do know for sure is that Eric owes 4 million, Don Jr. owes 4 million, and Daddy, I guess Weiselberg owes something as well. And the corporation itself, I believe, is what's being dinged for 453 million.
Is that right? Is it if it's the organization, then there's no way out. You have to declare the organization bankrupt if it can't pay. And then I agree with you, Dennis, that all the assets of the organization, You'd come up with a balance sheet of assets and liabilities, and you determine whether it actually was solvent.
You know,
Well, and then you have another problem. Pardon me, Frank. Let me just quickly say that there are mortgages on all of these businesses, and most of them don't turn a profit anyhow.
And I was going to add to that. It seems to me that this judge that is taken over, basically taken over the company, and he can't do anything without getting this judge to agree to him doing it. Her entire reason for being there is to keep the company solvent so that it can pay its bills and keep people being paid and continue on as well as possible. So I can't imagine that she would agree to let the company go bankrupt.
Well, you'd have to really get into it. A mortgage is not necessarily a negative signal. It depends on what the equity is above the mortgage.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so if he's overvalued the properties and got mortgages which are effectively more than 100% of the value of the property, then yeah, they're in deep trouble. If the mortgage is only a fraction of the value of property, then he can obviously take out additional loans to pay the 300 million by leverage.
But it sounds like that you're telling us exactly what the judge and the court said happened. So this is one fine mess he's gotten himself into.
Oh,
And you know what the other part of the mess is that his very next trial, which begins on March 25th, is about falsifying his business records.
Dennis, can you switch to that other mic like you did a couple weeks ago?
yeah, it's skipping a little bit.
Well, you know, it's these.
Ah,
Bluetooth technology isn't all it claims to be in general.
Wait a minute.
It is subject to that. In the car, that happens as well sometimes.
Okay, I think I'm back.
You are.
better. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for that topic, Brent.
Hey, I got another one.
Oh, excellent.
Let's see what we got here. How about that one?
Urges Democrats to vote against Biden in the primary.
Oh,
Hey, never met a campaign that the Democrats can't figure out how to lose.
What the hell?
What's the context here, Brent? Who is this person? And
You don't know who
Yes.
Rashida Tlaib is? She's one of the squad. She's
oh yeah, she's one of the rebels, left rebels.
Squad.
well, she's also was she born in the Middle East or
He's Palestinian.
okay. Oh well, there it is.
Well,
is that primary? Is it which? Oh, it's the Democrat. Okay.
Michigan. She's from Michigan, so
Yeah.
I think that's a Super Tuesday state.
she's just saying vote non-committed, not for or anybody else, but just basically against
Because
Biden.
there's no actually contest.
Right.
This is more of a let's get some leverage.
Yeah, I would think so.
Well, score one for the ridiculous MSM,
Well, going back to last week's framing,
mainstream media.
going back to last week's framing, everyone, has
Uh,
this week changed?
No, I'm not going to allow that. No,
Well, I just mean as a
no, but
catalyst.
I don't mean doing it.
Well,
I mean, no.
yeah, but so let me rephrase. Let me reframe because I think you won't have that problem with what I'm actually trying to do, which
Okay.
is to ask this question: has anything that's happened to Trump this week changed the board game significantly in any direction, or anything that's happened to Biden this week changed the board game in any direction?
Well,
I think
that's what I
so.
was talking about Fonnie Willis.
Well,
Nobody seems to think that, as I do, that was a surprisingly important change.
Oh, it was for sure. But I would also point out that
Can I hear why?
Donald Trump got booed in Philadelphia yesterday.
at the sneaker con.
Right.
Sneaker.
Donald Trump is the air is coming out of the balloon.
Well, let's get to the Funny Willis thing. There were a few opinions about, did she move the needle one way or the other? Some found it to be, negative. What are your thoughts on it? I thought she was freaking amazing on the stage.
Yeah, I don't think that there was any proof of her doing something that would maybe there was an appearance of impropriety, maybe it was bad judgment. But I mean
what was the bad judgment part?
her dating the guy she works with. But that's
romances. There's something like
office romances.
90% of all romances.
Whatever. I'm throwing out these things. You can question them any way you like. I'm just going to throw out a couple of
question them any way I like. Yes.
Okay, and as well you should. But I think that in no way was it proven that she did anything that was a conflict of interest, which is exactly which is what they have to do in order to.
That's what all their jobs are, to prove their point. So I think they all did a pretty good job of, proving what they were trying to prove. I mean, there was this nationally televised,
I don't agree.
Yeah, there was no "if the glove don't fit, you must acquit" moment.
Well, I think in order to understand what happened last week, you don't look at Fani Willis. You look at the testimony of the former governor to whom she offered the job of special prosecutor, who turned it down and told the court exactly why he turned it down. And you also have to look at the testimony of her father, who is just an absolute ace. The guy is an attorney. The guy practices law on an international basis. He's been an advisor to Nelson Mandela. He's done a fellowship at Harvard, among other things. He also taught Fani Willis the importance of keeping cash on hand. And he said himself, he keeps 3 safes in his house with cash and client private matters as well. So I think everything that the prosecution, or in this case, Trump's defense, tried to throw up against the wall didn't stick, because it came out with logical reasons for or against, as the case may be, and presented a case of very logical behavior, not anything nefarious.
I thought it was kind of ridiculous that they were trying to slam her for using cash to pay, to reimburse a friend, of whether it's a romantic friend or an office friend or whatever you want. That somehow that's like doesn't happen usually, or shouldn't, or they kind of kept like bringing up that feeling like, oh, really, cash? You're going to use cash to do that?
There's something ironic about that. There's something very ironic about this conversation we're having about cash on hand.
Why is that?
What?
Well, does Trump have cash on hand to be able to pay the disgorgement? I don't think so.
He doesn't have cash.
Yes, exactly. That's why I said there's something ironic about it, Batman.
But if you're on a vacation with someone and you owe them a certain amount of money, or you're at a dinner and you're going to share, you're either going to pull out cash and give it to them. You're not going to pay your friend with a credit card, right?
Or you split the bill. You can split the bill with a credit card.
Who has checks anymore? No one. And some people prefer not to use digital cash apps or whatever. That's a personal preference. I mean, personally, I do, but Fani Willis, she doesn't. Whoever you're dealing with, like I might, but maybe you know, if I owe Brent some money, he may not use Venmo. He may say, well, you know, can you give it to me in Cash App? And I'll be like, no, I don't really use it that much. So
Whatever form you
here's
want to
a-
give it to me, I am very
Yeah,
open
Brent
to
will just take
accepting.
it. Don't
Yes.
worry, he won't say no.
I just thought
You
it was
know,
ridiculous that they made it sound like, whoa, this person. And you know, I don't know. It just
you
it, it
know, when I first heard the discussion about cash, the first thing that popped into my mind is don't go there. This is a cultural thing, and you got to be really careful with that. And I can tell you, I grew up poor. We didn't have a checkbook. My dad brought home a pay envelope, and my mother immediately took the monies apart and stuck, you know, $5 in the mortgage envelope, $5 in the whatever envelope, and then went to the grocery store. And I think my first thinking was a lot of people understand cash and cash that way, especially on the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder. Now, as it turns out, Fonnie Willis didn't grow up poor. She's the daughter of a practicing attorney, a damn good one apparently too. But still, there's this cultural thing about using cash, and these idiots on the prosecution side or Trump's defense side just blew through that and made themselves look stupid in the process.
yeah,
I,
I think there was some sort of explanation, which you know, I think sounds rather valid. And maybe I'm not going to get all the particulars right, but someone said, I don't know if it was Fonnie Willis's father or maybe she said it, that in the Black community, uh, and, you know, that's a big umbrella, so let's not say that everyone agrees with this, but that having the cash on you that you can pull out and give someone is a sign that, you know, you're prepared to handle yourself. You can handle your liabilities, and that's a very important thing to show people. I don't know if
Yes,
that's a thing or not, but that's what.
it is. It is. Even today on election day, ward healers walk around with walking around money to hand out to people to get them in a cab to get them to a voting booth or whatever.
I think she mentioned a couple of reasons why that her father taught her this. She didn't want to be beholden to any dude. I mean, like if there's this. I know you guys didn't watch it. There's this old. I don't. Maybe you did. I don't know. There's an old TV show called Martin with Martin Lawrence, and they did an episode on why Martin got mad at his girlfriend Gina for asking his friend, his male friend, for some money to get the cab when he wasn't there. He got mad because he said, "You don't ever ask somebody that's not me, another guy that's not me, to give you money, because that, for whatever reason, that guy will think he has power over you now." And there's something to that in terms of, you know, this cultural stuff, and the also having cash on hand is makes for a better way of bargain. Like a lot of times, you'll get a much better deal if you come with cash as opposed to, you know,
Yeah,
a check or credit card.
she mentioned that quite effectively, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Well,
yeah,
gender wise, I mean, my parents always said, you know, you're going to go out, you're going to make sure that you have a little bit in your pocket, you're going to have some cash on you, because, you know, you may, I mean, this is before cell phones and all those things that where you can get help immediately, you know, you're going to run into a problem, you know, you need to be able to take care of yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
you need to have your own way home.
And
My wife is exactly that. She would rather spend cash knowing how much money she's spending.
mm,
That's her reason for doing it,
another,
than use a credit card on anything.
this is
That's
this is not a fascinating conversation. Just want to say.
Well, maybe not for you, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, no,
Well, it sheds a
this
lot of light on the case in Georgia.
the other thing that I think needs to be addressed is like Tina was saying, you know, there are people who really thought she did a great job. She stood up for herself. And then there's some other people who didn't like the way that apparently they thought she was being combative. Um,
Oh yeah, as soon as a woman sticks
Yeah,
up,
I think she
that's the thing. That's
I
the
think she
thing.
took care of that argument by pointing out that that all those other guys in the court were there to try and justify, trying to steal the election.
That wasn't just the
Her key line, I thought, was, "I'm not the one on trial. You
That's
all."
yeah, that's
right. But there were people, a lot of the commentators and the talking heads were like, well, she didn't do herself any favors. She came across like, she was and so what I got out of that is some people still don't like when a woman, and particularly a black woman, defends herself in a very strong manner. And because she did that, she wasn't taking any stuff. She wasn't letting them get away with anything. That made some people uncomfortable the way that she did it. And I thought
I'm
that was
okay with
messed
it.
up.
I'm okay with that.
I'm definitely okay with it. But
Oh,
come
yeah.
on, you couldn't turn on some of those shows and see
I,
people
I think that's
recoiling.
more of the 30% that in the base
Well, I think what
than
you,
it,
don't forget, Fonnie
anything
Willis
real.
was playing to an audience of one, the judge. The judge who was a local
That
person,
she knows.
the
Has
local, the
has
local.
certainly done cases in front of that judge before.
Right. There was a lot of familiarity in that courtroom.
Yeah,
I think that helped.
I would
So-
I would say the reaction to Tracy Chapman at the Grammys is more indicative of what people feel about strong black women. I think most people love and admire strong black women. I think
Wait a minute. Let's wait a minute now. Come on now. Was she on trial and was she having a bunch of 20 people attack her at one point?
no,
Come
but I'm
on,
saying
that's
people.
different. That's a
No, I'm
different
making a different point
circumstance.
that strong black women, most people admire, like Michelle Obama, for example. I don't think there's this societal thing where strong black women is any longer looked down on.
I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on that one.
Well, yeah, I think you could probably get odds on that. But by the way, there's the possibility that Michelle Obama would be the next president of the United States.
I don't think she
Very,
wants
very
to.
small.
hang on, but one thing I would like to say that maybe Fanny came across as angry a lot. And angry in my book is okay. What I would have liked is that there would have been more talk in the press about how many threats she's had against her.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, why shouldn't she be freaking angry? And then have to like
Because
go
she's not Brett Kavanaugh.
But that's the right angle. She is first and foremost Trump's nemesis. That's why people hate her. Because she's standing up to Trump, and doing a good job of it, by the way, as well.
Like the lady in New York, the district attorney in New York.
Yeah.
I'm sure she got a lot of
Yeah.
flack.
Yeah.
And threats.
And
Yeah.
threats. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the reason I thought that this was an important event was I watched the whole thing, from the beginning to the end. And around lunchtime, the nattering nabobs of the media, that's a quote from our
Spyro
Agnew.
Gyra.
They were all starting to bail on
Before
Biden
she got on the stand.
everybody.
Right?
Yeah, they started getting really kind of like Dennis last week, freaking out about how old Biden is. And I recognized last week that Dennis was doing something important, which was showing a little bit of our underlying anxiety that no matter how right people are to fight back against this, whatever you want to call what's going on, if you can say the thing that really scares you the most out loud, sometimes the demons go back under the bed where they really aren't. And so I thought that what Dennis was doing was a service to the show, no matter how uncomfortable it felt at the time. So when I'm watching these media basically starting to say some of the stuff that we've already heard here about, well, she was a little too angry. It's like,
No. I didn't say that.
I'm not characterizing what you said. I'm trying to identify the point where you said
All
it.
right, don't misquote me.
Okay. Angry white women here.
I gotta go now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Check, please. What I saw was, the media basically sending the message, this is not going to work out well, because no matter how right you might be about something, there's going to be this whole other group that's basically going to turn it into a victory for chaos, and it's really depressing. So and then there's, out of the corner of the screen, there's this woman standing up and, kind of edging. Nobody said who it was. The cameraman knew it was Fonnie Willis. So he started, zooming in and getting tight focus on her, and then zooming out. And she's just basically moved into the shot. And over a period of about 30 seconds to a minute, she just walked into the witness stand. And her attorney was about to start her presentation, for the Democrats or whoever. And she just basically made it really clear, no, I kind of have had enough here. And she did it in such a way that she demonstrated total control of that courtroom. She was careful, angry, but careful to be able to speak directly to the judge and basically say to the judge, look, because, watching that judge was an exercise in incredible subtlety and tact on that guy's part. He maintained, when she got there, he maintained a credible courtroom by basically reining her in a little bit, and establishing, yes, but that you're not going to be. And he defined specifically what were the grounds that she could, make statements on, very similar to what the judges in the other courtrooms are doing with Trump. And it all of a sudden felt like, wait a minute, something is kicking in here that is it's not the press, and they're running after the rubbernecking car wreck at the side of the street. This is something that these people are professionals at what they do. And the other thing I just want to mention, because I keep coming to this, no matter how partisan I am personally about all this stuff, I've adopted over the past months this little trick that I play with myself, which is put myself on the witness stand, put myself, and how do I feel if I was Trump? Forget about that it's Trump, but if I was in trouble the way Trump is in trouble, wouldn't I want the best opportunity and chance to be able to protect myself and to do the right thing for myself and my family and my friends? And when you do
Too
that,
logical, Steve.
sorry,
You're being too logical.
Yeah, I know, but this is
that way.
luckily this is the Gillmor gang, so I get to say it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that if you adapt the same principle for being fair and balanced, and I use that sarcastically, but to the point, in terms of the media, I think that you have a different media posture, which so far there's no network that's actually following that.
Absolutely right. 100%. Getting to your point about, the judge sort of setting the tone when he spoke to Fani Willis. It was her reaction to his comment that was kind of like, we are the adults in the room, to me, anyway. That's
Mhm.
how it felt. And you didn't get that sense at all from the Trump reaction to the judge at all. I mean, it just, I was just thinking as the conversation was going on about, I think she will come out of it unscathed, maybe scathed a little bit, but basically unscathed. And that will be another big loss for Trump. And then we're waiting for whatever happens with the final say on the immunity before the next trial begins. Things are starting to pile up. It's like what Dennis has been saying all along. It's
Mhm.
like it's not even 1,000 cuts anymore. It's more like 100 deeper cuts.
Mm.
Yeah, I felt like this was emotionally a beginning of the change that we may hopefully see sticking to the wall in terms of the media. And if the media starts to get serious about this, I know, Frank, that you're, in despair coming from
It hurts. It
people.
hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the good news or the bad news, which actually I think is good news, is you're not going to get any help in the newsletter space. There's no new media out there. It's not social media's fault or responsibility or anything to save us from the mainstream media. So it's all one media. And, as some people have said, it's the third party.
Well, you're 100% right, but the problem with that is that it is all one media, but we are so diversified in what media we go and consume that it doesn't feel like one media. So, that 30% of the Republican 50% are watching the one part of the media that is about 1/10 of 1% of the rest of the media. I mean, the rest of the media hasn't caught on. They look at this. They're looking at this as a way to continue to make money.
But you've
And
got
this,
to you've got to acknowledge that the media has almost zero power unless people are prepared to listen to it and believe it. And
yes,
that's increasingly not true. People are increasingly making up their own mind based on whatever sources they choose. And they're quite capable of assessing the viability and validity of things. It's not like we have 300 million sheep and one media.
Are you sure?
I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're being awfully kind.
Yeah.
No, no, I don't think so. I honestly, I think people are more sophisticated than they've ever been.
Keith, the
Agreed.
people who you deal with probably are. I wouldn't say that about generally for America. I don't think people necessarily have the intelligence or the understanding of
Or
like,
the desire.
or
Yeah.
maybe the desire
No,
or the energy
well,
to.
you've got to be super careful though, because you end up becoming like there's this assumption of an intellectual elite that's better than everyone else, which we're not. We're just people, and everyone takes stuff in. I mean, my cleaner, I can talk to her about Trump and Biden. She's got opinions. She's heard things on the news. She's Spanish speaking. English is her second language. She still has a pretty decent point of view.
Oh,
Keith
oh,
is right.
absolutely, absolutely. But well, look, I don't think that people necessarily are, um, understanding where their news is coming from or where their information is coming from, should it be trusted or not, or how to figure that out.
No. Keith has a good point, and I think what's not said is that you have to understand the basis of any individual's thought process. Is the basis rooted in the Constitution, or, for example, is it rooted in the Old Testament? That makes
a lot of that. I mean, people have this strong sense of right and wrong, mostly.
So the other thing I'd say is we're discussing what I think is a uniquely 20th century problem. If you go back to the 19th century, there was no national media. Everything was local. Rich guys owned newspapers. They and you know, it used to be said you don't want to pick an argument with guys who buy paper by the pound and ink by the barrel. And we're sort of going back to that, where you know, people in Indiana might think one way because there's, you know, a megaphone saying a certain kind of thing. People in Massachusetts, people in California might think differently, might express things differently. And if you get to communities where the again, the Constitution is not the bedrock of the discussion, then, you know, all bets are off.
I think it's the Constitution, but it's also how you treat your fellow human beings. I mean, I'm always struck when I see what's the Reverend who's always on
Sharpton.
Yeah, Al Sharpton. You know, he's very political, and his politics are grounded in religious thinking. And religious thinking, if you get rid of the Jesus part of it, is really all about being good to each other. And I think you know, I think that's true of every religion, by the way. I think that's true in Muslim religion. If you look at what's in the book, and if you look at the Jewish book, it's really all about humanity. And I do think most people carry with them positive thoughts. And I even think the people that back Trump, in their own thinking, are doing it because they want a better life.
You know, it sounds to me very much like religion when you think about the covenant between you and your higher power. And I understand that, but when Trump is looked at as the higher power, I don't understand that.
Anyway, back to the media. All I'm saying is I don't think the media has that much power.
Well, if I could add one thing, you can make this a divide between people who are people who derive their understanding from the Declaration of Independence and those who derive their understanding from the Constitution. It's only in the Declaration where we talk about the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Constitution, on the other hand, is a huge compromise that even allowed for slavery. And different sections of the country read the Constitution differently.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Court reads the Constitution differently too.
I'm sure they do read, yes.
Well, my comment about the Keith's assessment that the media has no power, it's probably true. On the other hand, I go back to the Watergate hearings. And there was a moment in the Watergate hearings when Alexander Butterfield was called to testify, and in a very carefully phrased answer, revealed the fact that everything that John Dean had talked about was recorded. And at that moment, everything changed.
That's right. It was a Senate hearing. I think Howard Baker asked the question.
Right. And, you know, the history of how they orchestrated that whole day is fascinating.
Yeah.
But my point is I got a whiff of that same thing when Fonnie Willis uh, took control of the courtroom.
That's why I really liked what you said earlier, Steve, which is the real power is that America has in its democracy a legal system that is fact-based, unlike, say, Russia, where Navalny can just be killed. It's a fact-based legal system, and every citizen has the right to their day in court and can bring the facts. And that's the real power. And now the fact that there can be cameras and we can all hear that live, it adds a layer of dissemination, which is fantastic, I think. So we can all judge for ourselves in a way, even though we have no right to make a decision. So I do think that strength of democracy, the judicial system's a huge part of it.
Right.
Well, if you look at the media as just a disseminator of the content, then the media has tremendous power. But once you put in the idea that there's someone in between the content and the ears of the people who are getting it, that is, the pundits and the anchor people and the people who give you their opinions, that changes the dynamic tremendously. Then I think you look at a media that is depleted. And I think that somewhere in the middle of that is what we need to be looking at. The thing is, when you have the opportunity to hear and see without anything in the middle, then you can make up your own mind. And that's a good place for the media to be.
Yeah, and I think it's a good place for the media to be depleted because they're trying to own something that they don't own, which is the gatekeeper class. The gatekeeper class will continue to be a factor, but it is outmoded by
liveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
because I mean, think about it. Not more than 15 or 20 years ago, as opposed to seeing everything live, a lot of what you got to see was edited after the fact and then presented to you as the fact. Whereas now you don't necessarily have to get it edited. If you get it, if it's out there, you'll find a place to get it unedited.
If you
But
stand
it's
back,
not a question of sorry, just
go ahead. No, it's fine. I can.
It's not really to me a question of whether you can get it edited. I mean, Brent and Paul, but mostly Brent because he does all the work. Do these short versions of their shows, and for some time I've been saying to Brent, and was thrilled to hear him say that I was right. Of course, I'm always thrilled when I hear that. But that it's actually the show is increasingly it's the edited version. But the edited version can contain and transmit the liveness. So it's not really live or edited.
Well, that's the skill of the person doing the editing.
But it's also technology that is now, sitting there. I mean, you can rent for $20 a month, Adobe, whatever it is.
Premiere Pro.
Yeah. Or, the one we use a lot because it works on an iPad. So it's kind of abstracted down to a set of tools that you can basically plug into the App Store and all of the viral aspects of that economy. These tools are available pretty much to anybody, at least initially. And that's an enormous change that we haven't really accommodated yet. It's really difficult to do what we're doing here, not from a technical perspective, but from how do we manage? I mean, I'm overly sensitive right now to this whole notion that somehow I'm overly controlling of this show.
You're too hard on yourself, Steve.
Yeah, well, that's one
Oh.
person very kindly said, David. I think that it turns out that it's Keith's
Best
Childhood
friend from high school.
yeah. Right. So
David Walton.
yeah, he wrote a very nice thing, but what I'm not overly hard on myself. I'm not as hard on myself as I should be because
Well,
because the job that's being defined is success at accomplishing what your goals are.
I think, Steve, we live at a
That's this isn't really a conversation. I'm just trying to say something here. Um, I don't like being the arbiter of what goes on the page. And in fact, since Tina has been the producer of the show, it's taken a lot of the pressure off that. But what the pressure that I feel is an emotional pressure that I think we all are struggling with in the age of Trump. And so if I have to make a rationalization for accomplishing something that might have some impact, even with the rough edges, I'm going to take that choice because, as I think I got from Fonnie Willis, enough.
You know,
But-
I think that is a form of editing, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Frank, what I think what's happening here, I don't think we live in the age of Trump as much as we live in the age of self-doubt.
Mhm.
I think insecurity about opinion dominates. It's almost like uncool to have a strong point of view. And an editor
Our
by
show.
definition, an editor by definition has to have a point of view because a show, and remember, this is the Gillmor gang, not the Gillmor show. So it isn't just Steve's show. We're all members of the gang. But Steve edits and directs the show. He doesn't produce it, but
Everybody does that.
Everybody
It's
does
just
it.
not as
No,
obvious.
you're the
But-
conductor, Steve.
But what I want to say is,
Rudder. You have a rudder that helps to guide the path. Okay.
I just
That's
have
how I see it.
I just have the excuse to be listened to about my arbitrary bullshit. It doesn't mean that you don't have that.
I would like to bring up something right
well,
now.
it seems as if I'm being squeezed out here, guys.
Well,
Can I bring something
seriously?
up? Can I bring something?
I'm
that
joking.
has
Are
to
you
do-
joking?
I'm joking.
Let me bring up something that has to do with media and how we use it these days. So right now we're doing a show, and this is our live recording. By the way, this is not our released version. If people are interested, they should go and see our released version, which is a little different. However, that doesn't mean that we edit it in the middle because we don't. But you know, we dress it up a little bit.
Well, we have occasion.
So let me say this. We have someone in our comments, actually the only person who's commenting right now that I can see on Facebook, who has, I know her personally. She has commented many times on this show before, and previously she has referred to a book called The Ugly American. She was doing that today again, and as in part of our conversation, she was saying in her comments, I go back to The Ugly American. Facebook decided that that wasn't cool and told her that she could either post it or not, but that it was close to violating their standards. She decided not to post it, and now she cannot comment on the show.
What?
What do you think about that?
So yeah, I've noticed that the last comment from her was 17 minutes ago in my stream, and I just saw Brent's view. There's a different comment from in your view, Brent, than I don't see that one. So Facebook's definitely getting in the middle. That one that says, Steve, this is so poignant, is not in my list.
Wow.
How
Yeah.
dare you say that?
Me neither.
Interesting.
I don't see it.
That is really interesting.
Really?
So Facebook is definitely interacting somehow at a very micro level, but
understand.
going back to the big conversation, I think strong
but-
points of view are fantastic, and insisting on being able to say them is if we didn't live in a society where that could happen, the society would be the worse for it. And on a show, somebody at any given moment, it could be any of us, I agree, but Steve, you do carry a special burden here, has the right, and not only the right, the responsibility to steer things. And I don't think there should be any lack of confidence or self-doubt around
I
that.
think steering is overrated. I really I just don't see what you're saying. I can feel my lack of success at steering a lot more.
Well, we're all hard
I
to deal with.
can be well, it's impossible basically.
Yeah.
So I mean, where do you guys want to go right now? Do you want to talk about censorship and
I would like to talk about
Yeah,
that.
why
I
is the
talked
live
about
lower
the other-
third on the feed stopped? Does that happen to anybody else on Facebook?
We have,
On Facebook, I'm not playing them video, so I can't tell.
I
It
don't
looks to
understand what is it about the book The Ugly American that is censorable?
I don't know. What I think is that the maybe Facebook doesn't know that she is referencing a book and she is saying the ugly American. Still, I don't think that should be a reason to be bumped off of commenting in Facebook. And she says, absolutely, I cannot post to the feed right now.
So that I bet you anything, it's the word ugly. It may be ugly when combined with American, but value judgments that are, it goes back to that thing about the child suicide in Congress a couple of weeks ago. The social media owners are totally paranoid that they're letting people trigger emotional reactions. And the word ugly obviously would be one of those, right? So I'm sure that somewhere deep in Facebook's algorithm, the word ugly is one of those words that gets surfaced to be flagged and acted on, which is a sign of the times, right? I personally think it's BS, but
the workaround is to either put the ugly American in quotes, which would show it's a title, or to just mention the author's name, Eugene Burdick.
Well, I want to mention
she's working shorthand here in comments, so she's not really like, writing a research paper, and she's commenting on social media, and she's completely
who's got a
ignoring this
speaker
book.
turned on that
Steve, probably.
it was me because I wanted to open up the comments and it self-played. I've stopped it
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, we're broadcasting courtesy of the Restream application. We're broadcasting on X, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So this becomes an economic question. Do people care that they're being, constrained in terms of their interaction?
I care.
Well,
I care that we've got someone watching who's somehow, very
well, it doesn't surprise me that Facebook would be, so thin-skinned about this kind of stuff.
I'm sorry, but the word, even saying ugly and American right next to each other, I cannot believe that would trigger their algorithm to bump someone, especially when they gave them the choice.
It's probably a blunt instrument, Tina. They've probably got a blunt instrument keyword viewer. Like they don't, like, let's say some of our viewers were teenage girls, which we don't know. That may well be the case. They know. That, you know, they'd put 1 and 1 together and make 3.
You know, Steve, Keith, right after, and I don't know if this is linked or not, but right after you posted your comment, quote, ugly American, end quote, is a reference to a book. The lower third text started up again on the Facebook feed.
Right. Interesting.
I don't know if it's connected or not,
but you know, to me, it's a very good experience, because when I think about what Musk is doing at X and what is happening on LinkedIn, by the way, which has opened up and become a huge environment these days. Brent, you know more about it than I do because you've been on it so long, but I'm increasingly impressed by LinkedIn's comprehensiveness and the tools that they bring to bear, picking up on Steve's point about the tools. It comes back to human trust and not needing an arbiter. And I think we've talked ourselves into the need for an arbiter because of words like misinformation or disinformation. We've politicized language to the point where we're no longer free human beings. We're policed, if you like, in many environments. And I think we're grown up enough to not need to be policed.
Oh, I don't think that takes into account the fact that individuals now have, at a very low cost, the ability to broadcast globally. And there comes some responsibility with that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think that the free speech, sort of architecture of how we talk about this. The other day, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. The other day was a Senate hearing, I believe it was, with Lindsey Graham and that other guy from Texas. Not my favorite people, but what they were basically saying was enough. You know, this was a very tightly constrained issue having to do with child pornography. And they were basically saying about Section 230, is that correct?
Right.
That enough already. Nothing else is going to work. Maybe if the social networks have to own some of the responsibility for what it is that they're doing. So we need to change Section 230. Prior to that discussion, I felt, you know, that Section 230 was responsible for a significant growth of the internet. So I thought that it was a positive. After that, you know, show, you know, there was, and most people don't agree with my, you know, perspective about this. Most people think that nothing's going to change. I think there's a significant possibility of something changing around Section 230. Now, I'm not, yeah, I mean, Brent, you're indicating that you're not so sure, right?
These folks have so much money to throw at it. It may take years and years and years. And we all know by that time, it'll be a whole other new issues and challenges with social media. So they solve the thing that should have been solved 5 or 10 years ago, only to be that much further behind whatever comes, in the future with this stuff.
But isn't the right thing to do to write software to catch criminality as opposed to writing software to prevent words being used? I mean, criminality is the problem. There's all kinds of laws that make it illegal to do all kinds of things. And if you use social media to do any of them, it's reasonable that you get caught and prosecuted and have your day in court. But we shouldn't assume bad behavior and try to catch it through word snatching. That just seems like the wrong approach.
You know, the thing that
Yes.
really pisses me off about discussions in the political realm about like the border and the Republican challenge that this is a crisis and we have to do it, okay, and we're going to do a bipartisan thing, and oh, by the way, Trump's going to say no, and so we're all going to go run and hide. That's the same energy as saying, in my opinion, just an opinion, that's the same energy as saying, well, we can't touch Section 230 because, whatever, the sanctity of free speech. I don't buy that.
I don't think it's about free speech. It's about logic. Because I founded an ISP and was subject to various rules, I think of it in probably a different way from the point of view of the service provider. So I'm not necessarily right, but I have a perspective which is the point of view of the service provider. My default position is I really don't want to look at anything that's on my service. I want the police to be able to look at it and prosecute people who break the law, but I don't want to have it as my responsibility to look at it. Now, if they force me to, and I do, which I personally wouldn't, but if Zuckerberg does, if they force me to look at it, I do look at it, and I engage with it and stop things. I don't want to be responsible for doing that for everything because I did it once. Now, Section 230 says if you do it once, you don't have to always do it. It protects you from becoming basically a permanent censor over everything. If Section 230 goes away, one of two things will happen. Either social media will stop looking at anything because they don't want to be responsible, or they'll look at everything.
Neither of those things is appropriate, however. I think the discussion right now continues to circle the drain because we're trying to control outcomes by controlling inputs, and that's not how you do it. You can to a degree control inputs, but it's a Wild West free world out there, and outcomes are going to be what they are. Your point about there being laws is a valid one, and what we're not talking about in the 230 discussion is how you make people accountable. The problem we have is that nobody's accountable, and the reason nobody's accountable is you can start a new account on any of the social services, calling yourself Squiggy, and giving yourself a made up address. 4 or 5 years ago, I said the solution to this, and I wrote it in several places. The solution to this is requiring everybody to, when they sign up, identify themselves and take responsibility for everything that they do. Furthermore, I believe it's also the duty of the providers not to give everyone carte blanche with service. And I liken it to any of the other professional certifications that we have going on in our society. For example, if you're an electrician, you might be able to do quite a few things, including getting up on a utility pole and not killing yourself and rerouting electricity. If you're a homeowner, you can do things inside the four walls of your house, but you can't climb that utility pole. And the same thing has to occur in social media. There are people who are recreational users, and they should have no stipulations other than having to be identified and own what goes out on their names. There are other people who use it commercially, and they should be held to a higher standard. If you want to climb the utility pole, you have to demonstrate that you're not only competent but responsible.
The challenge with that, Dennis, is, and I'll take you to a different context to make it clear, but I think it would work in the States as well. In places like Russia, anonymity is important to be able to express a point of view because the state is a threat. And now we don't know for sure that the American state will never be a threat. It could easily become a threat. And anonymity might be super important in that context. So I'm not completely convinced that citizens' rights are well served by being forced to be public.
Well, to take your argument a step further, having those strictures in place might actually be a way to buck up democracy. I feel bad for the people in Russia, but you know what?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think that Keith's point is well taken. I mean, I've been for years, getting, into troll fights where, I'm saying, "Oh, what is your real name?" So I understand your perspective, Dennis, but I also understand the power of, if there was no ability for, what's the term for talking about a business or whatever behind the cloak of anonymity.
Yeah, I
I
get you.
can't remember the word right now, but I think that that's the cornerstone of uh, you know of fighting back against tyranny.
But
So
I don't think that's a good enough answer because it says why we can't do something. It offers nothing about what we can and ought to do to solve the problem.
I mean, I don't do any.
that's not fair. You stated that we're circling the drain in this discussion, so you kind of limiting the choices to either this or that. What I was complaining about is when I see Congress, when I see the new Speaker of the House refuse to bring something to the floor, faced with the 70% consensus in this country about which way this should go, not this specific issue. The ability to choke off progress and a solution to these things because of the problems that solutions can bring to bear is not an answer to engaging. So when we have institutions which can basically choke off discussion before it even gets voted on, there's something wrong there.
I don't agree. I don't think that's the right framing of the problem. What I'm talking about, it actually applies to everything from how you get your hair cut to what doctor can work on you and do surgery. It's a question of defining the professional standards and to meeting it. Now, if you go back in history, before these things were in place, you could, for example, see barber surgeons getting all upset about the fact that they might not be able to use their razors to excise things from people's bodies or what have you. But what really happened was that a different way of doing medicine came to be. I'm not saying that what I'm suggesting or is without issues. What I'm saying is that it provides a standard by which you can build a new paradigm.
Okay, so what's the new paradigm that you can start to build based on the notion that what Section 230 defines is the inability to file a lawsuit against a company for the material that's on their network that they're publishing and making money disseminating?
Take away anonymity. Right now, the people who are anonymous are hiding behind 230, and the platforms
I,
Not,
I don't follow. I don't follow.
So do you think taking away anonymity would make things more real?
yes, I do.
I think that's the point.
The right framing, Dennis, might be that I mean, some environments insist on proof of who you are. I think Twitter's moving that direction, X, and I think Facebook has always been that.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. But I do think it's okay for there to be other environments where anonymity is assumed and it's fine, and everyone knows. So
As long as they're not effective, right?
I'm actually advocating that at the lowest level of I don't know what you want to call it, use. If you want to call yourself Squiggy, that's fine, but you'll have to limit yourself to say 10,000 contacts.
It's interesting in the Web3 world. There's quite a few initiatives. There's a guy called Greg, blanking on his second name right now. He'll come to me in a minute. Who was Jack Dorsey's friend at the motorbike company that was the inspiration for Twitter. Greg Kidd, 2Ds. He's got this World ID thing, which is not like your name and address, but it's an identifier that's unique to you. And Sam Altman has got World ID, it's the name of the company, which is a retina scanner that, a bit like Apple's phone, it confirms it's you, but it doesn't tell anyone who you are. So there's a confirmed human being with an identity that is not like Keith Tier, it's a number. And so it combines individual identity and network presence with without revealing your name, address, phone number, and so on.
Is
And
there,
that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say it offers a new paradigm, a new way to make a paradigm. You've
What
just
about-
Yeah. Then
What if
now
the state
you have to pay for that.
requires that in order to get a driver's license?
It's a bit like a social security number, actually. I mean, social security number, we all have one.
Yeah, what if they require, what if a state in the United States requires a retinal scan?
well, they kind of do. They ask for your fingerprint. At least in some states.
I just gave my fingerprint to get my license renewed.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You certainly have to do it to get a
only the
passport
first
if you
time
live in a foreign
I
country.
drove a cab when I was in college. That's the only time I've ever been fingerprinted. You're probably right that now I have to do it, but there's been a long period of time when I didn't.
Global traveler, you have to do it as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Or you don't travel. You assume.
You did it when you had your TSA pass, or whatever that's called.
Well, but it wasn't
But-
required. It was a choice if I wanted to get a TSA pass.
Well, that's true. But yeah, okay.
well, so look, Dennis, you must feel this, that 40 years after the Big Brother ad that Apple did, there is a Big Brother element to enforced identity. You have to, unless you can trust the state, 100% forever, it's kind of scary.
No doubt about it. I am not advocating that the lowest level of use has to do something like that. But I would make that analogy to flipping a circuit breaker in your house. But when you walk out of your house and you want to climb a utility pole or dig a hole, or if you can cut your kid's hair, you can't cut somebody else's hair.
Your starting point is accountability, which is a good concept. I think everyone should be accountable. Otherwise, that said, in the real world, if you go to a football match and somebody screams at someone, the way they're held accountable is the other person punches them in the face. And so there's many ways to be accountable. There's peer accountability, and then there's legal accountability.
Sure.
And whenever I've done startups in the mobile space, which I only really did two, I always built in peer scoring. And after a certain threshold, somebody got blocked without having blocking. It's just like if you object to this person 3 times, they're blocked. And so you created the equivalent of real world ignoring. So that accountability takes the form of not being listened to.
Well, that's sort of pre what I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about is utility formation, and how in a utility has to serve everyone equally with the same prices, same services, etc. When we're talking about social networking, early social networking involved what? All the kids on a particular college campus, for example. Okay, we're way beyond that now. We're at the utility level, and society needs to be able to depend on the veracity of the utility, the fact that the utility doesn't go down, and a lot of other things. The fact that the information provided by the utility is true to the best of the posting person's ability. Now, how do you do that? I would say anybody named Squiggy is not going to pass the test.
No, I hear what you're saying. But I think there's better solutions. I think
Please tell me one.
I think about the World
Oh,
Postal Service.
This is going to be another show.
Yeah.
What'd you
So
let?
I stopped saying
I-
my solution.
Well, I'm stopping you saying your solution.
That's
We'll go home and do homework.
Hey, me.
I'd like to. Anybody have anything else that they want to talk about briefly?
The OpenAI video stuff's kind of compelling. I mean,
Sora.
yeah, just as a wow, look what it can do. I mean, I wouldn't claim to be it's worthy of any deeper discussion than that, but wow, look what it can do is both good and bad, by the way. It gets things wrong, but the fact that it can get anything right at that level is amazing.
How have you tested it out? What have you
Well,
used?
you can't yet because they haven't opened it up. They released a whole bunch of videos they made, all of roughly a minute long, with very high definition and fidelity and looking totally real based on just a text prompt, creating them. And then Sam Altman said, send me some prompts and I'll make more. And so they've been doing that for the last few days. So there's a lot more videos out now. There's a lot of critics saying that ant's only got 4 legs, not 6. So it got it wrong. So that's true. It did get it wrong, but it's still an amazing looking ant, even with 4 legs. And there's a whole debate, which the chief scientist of NVIDIA has weighed in. Fan is called.
Frank, you wanted to say something?
No, let Keith finish, then I'll.
He's
say what I
talking
want.
about the laws of physics. Normally when you do animation, you have to build 3D models, as Frank will know, that are massively computationally heavy, and you have to write a physics engine to be able to even do it. And Unreal and various other engines exist that they do that. It seems as if OpenAI has got the ability to understand both physics and movement without needing to build 3D rendering engines. So therefore, the computational cost of producing video has come way down, which is the opposite of what normally happens with OpenAI.
So not what I was gonna what I was gonna talk about, but I did see something fascinating. I was at my dentist's office this week, and he showed me the new way that they scan your mouth, create a 3D image of it, and then send the 3D image of it to the lab in order to make crowns and moldings and things like that. I was like, oh man, and I had not seen that. Maybe it's because I haven't sat in that chair for a long time. But what I was going to say was I wanted to throw out the new streaming show that I think everybody should pay attention to, and it's called The New Look, and it's about the time of Christian Dior and Coco Chanel during World War II. It's absolutely fascinating, and I guarantee you'll learn some things about Coco Chanel you may not have known that I think is also fascinating. And Oppenheimer was the big winner in the BAFTAs, I won't tell you which specifically they won, but a very odd movie, which I saw late in the screening process called Poor Things. It was the second biggest winner in the BAFTAs. Barbie was blanked, and
Yeah.
which was interesting. But Poor Things, which I saw, as I said, late in the screening process, was absolutely amazing. It was an amazing movie. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's a Frankenstein movie, and but it's just incredible. It's incredible. Anyway,
So,
that's it. I would have talked about, Trump's not talking about Navalny, which is kind of interesting, but we let that one fly away for another time.
Can I offer one movie? It's called The Taste of Things. It's French. It's with Juliette Binoche. And
Oh, she's in this show, by the way, in the new look.
yeah. I saw that. Yeah. She's
What's it called again, Dennis?
The Taste of Things. So it's shot in about 1885, and the head or the
shot or it takes place
takes,
in
takes place. Well, what do I know? I don't know video. Come on.
They shot it.
like, they shot it. Is it in color? They didn't shoot it in 1885.
No, it was when the
Well, Juliette
Revolutionary
Binoche
War
was
guys.
not alive in 1885.
So you went to the theater to see it because it's not
What?
streaming yet.
Yes, went to the theater, and it's all about sort of high gourmet food evolution that came out of the 19th century France, and the prime or the star of the show is the food, and if you're at all into food and food prep and specific recipes, it's just a gorgeous movie.
Is this the one where she becomes sort of the apprentice to the chef?
She is the chef's cook.
Yeah, this is a great movie. I did see it. It's phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
it was a screener from the last group of screenings. It wasn't this year's movie. It was a last year movie, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. It's really good.
Well, we're almost through culprits, and then I can start listening to you again.
Okay.
Have any of you watched Expats?
Not yet.
Next one up on my after I watch the docudrama about Einstein, that'll be the next thing I watch.
Is Bill
Okay, so
Belichick in there?
I have a comment on we've been watching this show Feud something about what's the guy Truman Capote versus the Swans.
Oh yes, the Swans.
Yes. Now I have a bone to pick. This is related to your 1885 comment.
This is freaking Steve Allen.
So yeah. The third episode involves two people that I actually knew, the Maisels brothers, who were very good friends of my mother's, and they used to come up and stay with us in Woodstock. And in fact, one of them, we would always watch these, their movies, their rushes, whatever, on this 16 millimeter projector. And Albert or David didn't close the reel down, and it came down. I was sitting underneath the projector and chopped off my finger right here, and it had to be sewed back on. And for months I was, basically.
Hey.
Yeah, exactly. So
You enjoyed that.
I knew them quite well.
I knew Albert actually pretty well.
Yeah. And nothing about how they were portrayed in this TV show had the ring of truth to it. Nothing. It was advice that they used. I mean, it's not a criticism of the filmmakers. It's an interesting show. But there's something about that I think started with the electric acid Kool-Aid test and Armies of the Night, and some of these, quasi cinematic or novelistic, factual films. There's something about it, if you've actually been around it, it's like, no.
It's funny. I saw the movie. I don't know if any of you saw it. Did you see the Blackberry movie? Did anybody see that?
Yeah.
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 Really
So,
interesting.
so I was doing a panel at SCAD with the couple of the people who were involved in that film, and I said, "Wow, that was a brilliant docudrama." And boy, they got so angry. That was not a docudrama. That was a pure drama. And I went, "Oh, so it wasn't documenting the things that happened as it led up to the end of BlackBerry." Well, it did, but it was not. It was a pure drama. It just made me, it struck me when you were saying what you were saying, Steve, that how do you tell the difference between a pure drama and a docudrama?
Well, a pure
I don't
drama
know.
is fictional.
Yes.
But,
So,
really good fiction gets closer to the truth than a mediocre documentary.
and I'm hoping that that's what New Look is. It feels like it is. I don't know enough about. I mean, I know a lot about that period in history in Germany, but not about those two specific designers and how they reacted and played inside that history of Nazi Germany. Anyway, there you go. That's it.
Chanel was sleeping with a Nazi.
Yes, and in fact, the way that this movie portrayed her, she was in fact a Nazi spy.
Ooh.
So there you go. I threw one
That's
out
why I
there.
love the Woody Allen, Annie Hall visitation by Marshall McLuhan. It's how you came to be a professor of anything is totally incomprehensible.
That was a very important and powerful book in my growing up.
Wasn't there something else in this show that we were watching that was also freaking you out? It was like there was some other convergence.
Yeah,
of your
I
life.
mean, well, that's just, generally, my childhood is now
Documented.
history,
Yeah.
19th century, fuck. And I say that with all Facebook relevance. Let's see how they asterisk those words now, right?
Yeah, that's what they did when they stopped the feed on it. It was a asterisk asterisk asterisk.
Okay.
I guess angry was the word.
I just want to say to Facebook, fuck you.
That's a great way to.
You want to say to Facebook, you're ugly.
Exactly.
That'll get you.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. This was a good show.
Yeah. Right up there.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Chow mein.
Bye. See you next time.
Hey, Brent.
See how Prince is looking up at the ram shoe? That's